Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. And if you're tuning in for the first time, we are a Boston-based, fully producing, and I like to say that because we're not just internet, we're fully producing radio station with all the bells and whistles. You can listen to us globally, wherever you are. You can ask Alexa. We have our own apps. And so wherever you are, you can just tune in to your favorite show or listen to us all day long. If you want to know more about us and to see and check out all the different hosts that we have, we've got some new ones, go on Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7radio.com. And this is a live show, by the way, and Bob is in the house, and he will be glad when you call in, you have a question for myself or my guest, Yonni Wattenmaker, he'll just put you through and you can talk with us live in real time. And our toll-free number is 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200. Well, my topic with Yonni today is from an eating disorder, physical damage to the body, to healing with food. And again, my guest is actually one of our hosts, Yonni Wattenmaker. And she is a co-host with Heather, who we interviewed just a couple days ago, and I'm going to put that out so you'll go and listen to it. It'll be available this weekend, and it will also re-air come next Thursday and Friday. And their show is Her Health Compass, and it's a radio podcast with Heather and it's every Wednesday, 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Well, Yonni has served as Executive Director for a national breast cancer charity from 2011 to 2024. During her tenure, she led efforts to advance breast cancer research, education, and patient support, establishing herself as a dedicated advocate for those impacted by the disease. In addition to her successful career in nonprofit leadership, Yonni is the founder of Yonni Health and Wellness and the Yonni Health Coaching Program. She has earned an integrative health coaching certificate at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and will complete her functional nutrition certification this year. I want to ask you, did you complete that, Yonni?
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and on top of all that, Yonni was named one of 40 Fascinating Women by WAG Magazine in 2019 and honored as a woman who inspires by the YWCA in 2021. So what is better than that? And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me here today. We're really enjoying being a part of this Dream Vision family.
Thank you, and I'm delighted that you're part of our team as well as coming on the show, because then I get to connect with you voice to voice other than, you know, when we're doing your show and things like that. So I'm just honored and excited. So one of the things that we are going to honor is we are honoring your grandfather. And tell us about him. And he was a breast cancer survivor.
He was, yes, and actually his yahrzeit, the Jewish memorial date of his passing, is actually today. So I feel like this is in so many ways a tribute to him.
Yes.
Yes, he was a breast cancer survivor. He was a character and a half. He is missed greatly, truly the patriarch of our family. But he, like many men, although it's not well known, was diagnosed with breast cancer. He found a lump in his chest and went to what was then Sloan Kettering, before it was Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City, and they performed a mastectomy on the side where they found the lump. And they told my grandmother, not my grandfather, that he would probably only live 4 to 6 months. And back then, which was, I would say, 40 or 50 years ago at this point, that prognosis might have been accurate. Thankfully, however, they were wrong. She never told him. And he died at 97, having nothing to do with breast cancer.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
It's remarkable. It's amazing what a determination and a little lack of knowledge will do. And, he wasn't a big drinker. He wasn't a real smoker. He wasn't a smoker. I saw him with a cigar every now and then. And he was very active until the end. He loved exercise and fitness. And, he lived a really good life. But one of the things that inspired me to get involved in this work is that I think it's like 1 in 1,000 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and men don't know that because the statistics for women are 1 in 8. So obviously there's much more conversation about the women than there is about the men.
Yes. We actually, one of our hosts back, I think it was 8 or 10 years ago, Mock, and I'm trying to think of his last name, but he was part of, Alliance for Men's Breast Cancer because he actually experienced that himself. And so I wonder, Michael is his first name. So I wonder how he's doing, because I haven't connected with him in quite some time, but I ended up getting quite an education because of his journey. So yeah, there are more men than one would think, and they may not get the quality care that they need because, or even a doctor finding it, because they're just not. It's not the same with going to have exams and things like that on a regular basis.
Right.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, and you kind of touched upon it, because of your grandfather, is that what drew you into the topic of breast cancer and becoming an executive director? It was in the back of my mind, but it wasn't the impetus. I, like so many of our listeners, was a working mother. I always had a full-time job. I was in nonprofit work and things that were meaningful to me, but I was very much a contributing member of my household financially, and I was raising a young son at the time. And I had a very long commute. I was commuting 3 hours a day. I was missing putting him on the bus in the morning. I was missing being home for dinner probably 4 nights a week. And I wanted to make a change. And so in about November of 2010, when I knew I wasn't going to renew the position that I was in, but I was on a contract that went until, spring of 2011, I started to talk to people and say, what do you see me doing next, right? And I knew I either had to make a lot more money to make this lifestyle worth my while, or I was willing to make less money to be more of a mother and be home more. I only have one child who's now 25 and fabulous, but at the time, he needed his mom around. And so I started interviewing for different roles, and around that time, I guess early 2011, a friend of mine was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. It was stage 4. She had had breast cancer years before I knew her, and she came into my office crying and asking,
what it was going to be like for her children to grow up with her. And, we'd sit and go to coffee and talk about things like, her husband should feel like he can marry again, and who was going to make sure her children had good teachers and that they were doing their homework, and, who was going to be there when he was at the office, and all of these things that young mothers have to grapple with. And science has come a long way since then. She wound up living 5.5 years with a diagnosis nobody thought she could live that long with. Had she been diagnosed a few years later, she might still be alive today. But that weighed very heavily on me when the opportunity to work in that field came in. It felt like there was a reason that was coming together. And I had known other people who had had breast cancer, and then, of course, I thought of my grandfather. And it just felt like if I was going to go out every day and not be home, I could be proud of what I was telling my child I was doing when I wasn't there.
And it's certainly something to be proud about.
Thank you.
Yes. So now tell us about your, you've a journey. We're talking about eating disorder. And so tell us how that all started. Did it start as a teenager? What happened there? So
I am fortunate to have an incredibly loving, supportive family. So there was always something, I always say it's like in your wiring, where I just felt like there was something happening. I was lucky. I lived in a beautiful place. I had a lot of friends. I had loving parents, like I said, great siblings. But I remember being a little girl and seeing, 35 millimeter film, I'm aging myself, of me and my best friend, who's still one of my best friends, and thinking, is she prettier than me? Is she skinnier than me? And I didn't grow up in a culture, in a household that was saying, you have to diet, and certainly not at 5. And, people always told me I was adorable as a kid. It didn't make sense, except that it was a really genuine feeling. I don't know where it came from, but it was something that as I got older, I'm very type A. I'm not competitive with other people, but I'm competitive with myself. I want to excel. I want to make people happy. All of those type A sort of characteristics. And something was always sort of in the back of my head. Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I little enough? And I don't know what the impetus was, except to say, again, I think it was something in my wiring. And when I went to college and had a boyfriend who was already at university there. And it became what had been a very nice long-distance relationship, became a very toxic in-person relationship. And I seemed to have lost my way, in a sense. My mom would say she couldn't find me in this. And it did a lot of damage to me in terms of my worth, in terms of why somebody could be that way, why I couldn't stand up for myself. And I think it was after that things started to change, and I could see that I was enacting behaviors that were not necessarily healthy. And then I joined a sorority, moved on from that relationship, found wonderful friends. But as is with sorority life at, solid schools where people are competitive, there were some girls who were taking laxatives because they wanted to be the one to get the guy, and they wanted to look the best in the sorority photos. And, it wasn't malicious towards others. It was just how they were dealing with themselves. And I thought, I put on some weight in this relationship, and maybe this could help me take it off. And what started as a couple of laxatives a day led to nearly a pack of laxatives in 2 days. And it really, needless to say, it was a downward spiral. And on the surface, nobody knew, because like with eating disorders, it's the same as an addiction. One of the things you learn to be really good about is lying. And so if people asked me how I was losing weight or why I looked different, I just said I was going to the gym more. You know, you just have a way of sort of talking your way through it without giving it away. And the world wasn't like it is now in terms of diet culture. I feel like everybody talks about the fact that they're, you know, taking GLP-1, or they have a trainer, or they're trying this over-the-counter, you know, remedy. But then there was certainly a lot more secrecy behind it. And really, when it is disordered, there's still a lot of secrecy behind it. And I remember when I graduated from college, I was having all of these digestive issues. And my mom took me to, surprise, surprise. And my mother took me to a doctor, and he asked her to leave the room because I was old enough for her not to be in the room. And he said, "How long have you been a bulimic?" And I said, "I'm not a bulimic. I don't throw up." And he said, "You can lie to me all you want, but you're going to kill yourself. So you need to change this behavior because you're destroying your body." And it wasn't because I was 90 pounds at 5'5". It was because my stomach, my intestinal system was so depleted that I wasn't absorbing necessary vitamins and minerals. My intestinal lining was understandably truly inflamed. And I had, that I didn't understand now, is called leaky gut, which is when you even start to have like allergic reactions to things because things are going into your bloodstream that should not be entering your bloodstream in the state that they're in. So anyway, I just sort of pivoted what I was doing until I got pregnant with my son. And I got pregnant.
Hold that thought, because at what time did you, and was it later in life or back then, did you identify the root of why you started doing these things? Did you find the root? And the reason I ask that is because even in the best, the best parents, the best environment, it's not necessarily that. It could be a teacher that said something. Someone said something that you, in turn, felt a certain way about. And it was directed at, the value of yourself.
Right. No, you're right. So I did go to therapy, but I will tell you this pattern began when I was 19, and I didn't go to therapy until I was 37.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't. And I remember right before the wedding, my mother said to me, "If you don't stop what you're doing, I'm committing you to therapy," because she was afraid and she didn't understand what's happening. But then she didn't do it because I think she feared. She didn't want to ruin our relationship, even though she saw that something was wrong. But I was getting married. I was 24, and I don't fault her for that. I just think she felt sort of like in limbo and not sure what to do and hoping it would get better. And I remember years later, after my son was born, I think my son was around 8, she saw an interview with a celebrity on TV. And the celebrity was saying, people look at me and they think I'm beautiful and I'm smart and I'm talented and I'm capable. And inside, all I see is somebody who's not worthy. And so I overexercised and I had an eating disorder because I was trying to compensate for whatever the internal voice was saying, those things can't be true. And my mom called me crying and she said, "I feel like this is your story that you haven't told me." And I said, "You're right." And that was the first time I said out loud that I had an eating disorder. And, it's, I say it really easily now because I did have therapy and I've learned that I can help people. But as with alcoholism, as with drug abuse, it's something that you're cognizant of, even in some low level, sort of like a little hum all the time. And so you have to learn tricks for how to manage it because it could come back. And some of those thoughts and feelings, even if you don't start, sticking a finger down your throat or taking something, those are dangerous feelings. And so you sort of have to find your way through them. And so I found, which I'm sure we'll talk to, but through the podcast, through my platform, through this coaching and the training that I've gotten, it's really helped me to deal with it and stay as healthy as I can remain.
Right. So back to when you were getting married, did your husband realize that your partner, did he realize that what was going on?
Not to the extent that it was. And we had dated in college, so this was all happening even while we were dating.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you could be really good at hiding these things. So he didn't really know. He knew more once we were married and sharing a bathroom, and he'd be like, "So what is that?" And I would say, "Oh, it's something to help. I read it helps fuel your workouts." But he didn't know how much of it I was taking or how often I was buying a new bottle. But it did eventually. I am divorced, and it's not the reason we're divorced, but it did eventually take its toll, because there would be times where I remember we were getting ready to go out to dinner with our best friends. They had a child who was my son's age, and I don't remember how old the kids were. Maybe they were 4 or 5. And I must have tried on 30 outfits, and nothing felt good to me. I didn't feel pretty in anything. I didn't feel good in anything. And Deborah, I really don't think my weight had changed at all. I was always so fastidious about my weight that I had a number I was going to stick to. And if I went 2 pounds up, I went right back. And if I went 2 pounds lower, I had a good day. But it was in my head. And I just was crying, and I said, "I can't go to dinner." And he's like, "You're crazy. It's them. They love you. You have to go." And I started to cry, and I said, "We've been together so long, I don't know how you don't understand what I'm feeling and why you don't have compassion for how I'm feeling." And I said, "I want you to take a pillow, and I want you to hold it over your face until you can't breathe. And I am telling you that's how I'm feeling. And if you want to go anyway, you go, but I can't." So, eventually he knew. And again, not every day was like that. But it's an illness, and I don't think people understand that it's more mental than physical. And no matter how many people say to you, "You're beautiful," or "That outfit looks so great on you," or "You're so tiny," unless you feel it, it doesn't matter. Right? Yes. And you don't want to disrespect the people who are saying it to you, which I had to learn not to do, because I would immediately say thank you, but I'm not. I had to train myself out of that, which is where therapy came in. But I also know, even till now, that very rarely does a compliment land the way anyone is intended, unless I'm in a place to really hear it and feel it. So I don't know what the impetus was. There is no defining moment. I do just remember being that little 4 or 5-year-old girl, and for some reason wondering if I was physically worthy, enough like my friend was.
Yes, I understand that. Well, we need to take our first break, Yonni. Everyone listening, stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes more with Yonni Wattenmaker.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first-grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowd-funded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids Children's Book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and we are talking with Yonni Wattenmaker, and she is certified in integrative nutrition as well as integrative health coaching. She has her own company, Wellness and the Yonni Appetit Health Coaching Program, and she is also a co-host, podcaster for her show, Her Health Compass, with Heather Oweda, and they are on every Wednesday, 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. If you want to, Eastern Time, if you want to get in touch with Yonni, go to her site, which is Yonni, I'll spell it, YONAPPETIT.com, Yonni Appetit. And her email, as far as getting in touch with either Heather or Yonni for the show, is info@herhealthcompass.com, and that's the name of the website, herhealthcompass.com. So back to your journey, at what time did you decide, okay, I really need to heal my body? And is that what drew you to become an integrative coach? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
did you do research and things like that and then said, I got to do something or I'm going to kill myself? Or how did that all work for you?
So I was working in Manhattan. I was doing this 3-hour commute to Westchester, to and from Westchester, New York every day, where I was raising my son. And it was in 2008. And I guess throughout a lot of a few of those years, I was having a lot of intestinal issues. And someone, again, not surprisingly, but I wasn't quite up to my old tricks. They weren't as extreme. Once my son was born, I had guilt about it enough that I needed to get better about taking care of myself. And when I was pregnant, I was not doing any of this stuff. I wasn't taking, like these fat-burning pills. I wasn't taking the laxatives. So I did have a break and my body sort of regrouped after pregnancy, but things started to get a little tricky after that. And so I remember I started seeing a nutritionist in Manhattan that someone had referred to me. And she did blood work, and she was like, you literally are not absorbing any vitamins. Mm-hmm. So she put me on supplements, and she prescribed these things I had to concoct with stewed greens, and you strain them. I mean, I called it green gack. It was like disgusting. And I would do these 6-week cleanses, which made me happy because I was losing weight, but they were disgusting and they were not sustainable. And then I'd go off of them and I wasn't sure if my numbers were really any better. They were maybe a little better, but it wasn't sustainable. And
so if I may interject for a second, I'm curious on, okay, so you had the eating disorder, and now you were told to do these cleanses, which you were already cleansed from doing so much.
The goal of the cleanses were, I shouldn't say the goal. What I thought the goal of the cleanses was to strip things that, according to good health practice, you strip if you're trying to figure out if there's an issue. So often if I'm working with a patient who's dealing with a lot of inflammation and maybe some allergic reactions, the common things to remove from the diet are dairy, eggs, sugar, gluten, things like that.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
Those are big triggers. So the cleanse was really, the goal wasn't just for me to only have juice. The goal, which is also something that I don't think is the best idea. But the goal was to strip me of the things that maybe were causing additional inflammation, temper the inflammation, try to see if my gut lining would start to repair itself. And she was on the right path.
Right.
It just wasn't sustainable. And so then instead of just doing the pills, like new fads would come out, right? So like the Atkins diet came out in 2007, and I was like, maybe I'll try that. I got incredibly sick, and I developed a rash, and I had terrible bloating and all of these other gastrointestinal issues. And a friend of mine said, listen, I know this doctor in town. It's a lot of money. He does not take insurance, but I think you need to see him because he helped me tremendously. He helped my friend. And I went to see him, and I paid a lot of money for lots of blood tests. They were going to have me swallow a camera to see what was happening in my lining, a whole variety of, I don't even remember everything that they did, lots and lots of blood work, EKG, bone density, all of those things. And I went back, I guess a week or two later, and he said, you're not absorbing any vitamins, you're totally inflamed, I want you to go on a vegan diet. This was May of 2008. And I started to cry. And I said, I can't be vegan because you have to eat avocado, and that's fattening, and you have to eat nuts, and that's fattening. And can you just tell me, I was sort of joking, sort of serious, that I have a gluten allergy so that I can't eat bread. And maybe that'll be it. And he said, well, if you don't want to eat bread, don't eat bread. But no, I can't tell you that that's not what's happening. I need you to be vegan for 2 weeks. If it doesn't work, we'll reassess. In 8 days, I had lost, which I hadn't mentioned, I had also gained about 8 pounds in 6 months. And I had never, since freshman year of college with the freshman 15 that so many girls gain, literally that was unheard of. And I had already gone down to really dangerous practices, again, to try to take that weight off by, eating super minimal numbers of calories a day. So he put me on this diet for 2 weeks. He gave me a meal plan to follow. And in 8 days, I had lost all the weight. My rash was gone. My stomach issues were gone. I had more energy. And I was feeling back to myself. So from there, we did a lot of elimination diets. I still had to do some supplementation, with vitamins that I had been deficient in. And within 6 months, I think, everything had really normalized.
That is amazing. But yet, amazing. I also know that our bodies are a majestic machine, and they have the capability of healing in so many different variations that we don't even, a lot of it we can't even comprehend. Right. So I'm with you on it because I've had the intestinal situation. Not the same with you, but because of celiac, gluten, and allergies, and all of that, you become someone that does a research a lot, and you know your own body to help it heal. And that's the whole thing. It needs help. It can't do it on everything on its own. It needs assistance.
Right. And this is 2008, so the world was very different. So there weren't like the Mark Hymans of the world talking about functional medicine. There was Andrew Weil was talking about Ayurvedic medicine, but Dan Buettner wasn't talking about blue zones. These things, this wasn't what people were talking about. And so once I learned that there was a real movement behind this all these years later, and that I could be trained in it, that there was a word for what actually healed me, that was when I went back to school and got these certifications.
Very good. So now, because so much time goes by quickly and I have all these things to ask, but what did you stay on the vegan diet? Are you on a vegan diet now? What did you do then and now?
So I am, I would say 90 to 95% vegan. What I discovered, again, in this healing process, what I discovered during COVID, of all times, was that I can tolerate some fish. So tolerate is objective. Tolerate is, unlike eggs and dairy and meat and poultry, I don't get sick as soon as I eat it. I don't get nauseous. I don't get hives. I don't have those kinds of reactions. So if I am somewhere and I need to have protein in my diet and my only options are fish, I will eat fish. But I am 90 to 95% vegan. And the fish does usually give me a hard time in some way, but it's not this outward way, and I sort of prepare myself for the fact that I'm going to have a little abdominal discomfort for a few days. But there is also a benefit to fish oil, so for some of the fish that I eat, I tolerate it better than others. But I really try not to. And the truth is, Deborah, I think if someone said to me now, you can eat eggs again, you can eat steak again, you can eat cheese again, I wouldn't.
Right.
Because I just know for me and for my body that I just function much better in this way. And my blood work is phenomenal now. My boyfriend jokes I'm going to live to be 150. And what's nice about the training that I got is if you look at somebody like Heather, what we eat is totally in opposition to one another. Even my sister eats so very differently from me because she can tolerate things that I can't and vice versa. And so part of this training is knowing, like, there are things that you could eat that I can't, and then there are things I could eat that would kill you. So,
and that's where it goes back to learning about your own body and what works and what doesn't. I mean, it's a funny thing. Like, even for it's a whole story. But take quinoa. I love quinoa, and I can eat it, but if I eat it more than 2 days in a row, I've got a problem. So you learn to take the quinoa, enjoy it, not to make a lot of it because you want it fresh. And then so you do it once in a while, have it 2 days in a row, and that's it. So there's things like that you learn when you pay attention to what your body is doing as well as what it's saying to you. So you have learned that. So what are some of the things that you're doing for yourself now that really work? And I say that because I have my own things. One of mine is aloe juice. I do a capful of aloe juice every day, and it helps heal the lining of your stomach, your intestines, and all of that. Do you want to take a lot of it? No, because then you'll be in the bathroom.
Right.
But if you do one capful, it heals everything that's going on inside. If you have a little sore, a little this, a little that.
Right.
So tell me one of yours, and then we'll take a break.
So first of all, I cook with a lot of olive oil. People are afraid of olive oil, and you can't use it for everything, but olive oil is like aloe juice. People even take a capful or a spoonful of that in the morning. I drink I use a lot of citrus in my diet. So I'm drinking water right now. I've got fresh lemon in it, and I leave the fresh lemon or lime or oranges in my water in a pitcher in the fridge. That's very calming for me. I also like to drink room temperature water, by the way. It's easier on your body than hot or cold.
Yes.
But I am a very strong believer in whole foods, and I cook probably 70% of what I eat.
Yes.
Cook or prepare myself, like a salad. I'm not a bottled dressing kind of girl. There are very few that I'm willing to try, and I have a very low sugar diet.
And that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the sugar, and with cancer as well. So let's take a break, and everyone stay with us. We'll be back in just a couple minutes more with Yonni. See you in a bit.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be loved. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids Children's Book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times best-selling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and I just want to say I think it's excellent to have different people on in nutrition. I have a interest and a fascination with nutrition for most of my life, but we learn from each other. And, everybody is unique. I feel as though you can't put everybody's body in a box, and that goes with the high blood pressure and all the things that mainstream healthcare go after once you're 65. But the thing is we sharing different things, we can see what might help each other. And if it's food, it's not like you're taking the supplements, and I take some supplements because of the, you're not absorbing the nutrition, the fullness of the nutrition, even when you're eating organic. So you do the best you can. But anyway, Yonni, let's talk about the sugar, because people don't realize, and you become addicted. And then when you eliminate it, and what I'll say, and then I'll let you talk, is that we still, I still have sugar, but it's in bananas, fruits, all the different things like that. And I do have a treat once in a while when the holidays, birthdays, things like that, but then you don't feel good. You feel nauseous and queasy, and you have pain, at least for my body. And so my body doesn't want it. But yet, with the holidays, everybody's eating it, so you want to have your own that's gluten and dairy free, and oat free and everything else free. So tell us about the sugar and what you believe, and then they're coming with, there's so much research, and it's a fact now that sugar is not, it feeds the cancer cells. So talk with us about sugar.
So one really interesting thing to note, sort of as a big picture thought around sugar, is that it used to be when we were younger that tobacco was the leading cause of cancer. Today, obesity is tied with or the greater cause of cancer. And so much of the obesity issue in this country is that we're eating more and more processed foods as opposed to eating real, not organic in the sense that it is now, but cultivated, locally eating fresh foods. Because it's easier and it's cheaper to go to a market and buy something frozen or in a bag than it is to take it home, cut it up, figure out how to prepare it. And obesity is a real issue. And a lot of the driver of that obesity is sugar in its regular form, like you find in candy and ice cream and pastries and muffins and things like that. And then there's the sugar that white flour and gluten convert into and then gets stored as fat. And sugar is a driver of cancers, and it's a driver of inflammation. So having said that, everybody has a different physiology. So again, back to what you were saying, I can't eat steak, which you may tolerate really well, but I could eat quinoa every day, as opposed to making a small batch and eating it for one or two. So all of us are different, but when it comes to sugar, it's found in so many different things that you want to be careful. So obviously fruit sugar is very different than Dunkin' Donuts donut sugar, right? Right. So and Halloween is tomorrow, so it's sort of a fitting time to be talking about it. But when you're thinking about when you go to take a chocolate bar, for example, what is it that you're craving? And could you get the same craving from a piece of really dark chocolate, like 65 or greater % dark chocolate that has no milk and no sugar added, or very little sugar added, versus like a peanut butter cup? Right? What is it that you're getting? And if it's the peanut butter that you want in the chocolate, then stick a spoon in all natural peanut butter. Yeah, take a spoon in all natural peanut butter and then take a couple of dark chocolate chips and put them together. And you've made a more natural version of this sweet thing that you're craving. So, so that's where the challenge with sugar comes in. And again, it's not only that people are like in that frozen food section going, I need to have that and that and that and that and that. They're also in the processed flour section with the boxed cake and pastas and all of those things, and making decisions. So for me, I do eat gluten. I try not to eat it as the bulk of my day or even every day, but then I'm also conscious about the gluten. So like if you have sourdough bread as opposed to just white pasta, there are probiotics in the sourdough bread that help you maintain a healthy gut. So so for people who can tolerate gluten, there's a benefit to the sourdough that outweighs what the sugar will become from that product because it's treated differently. So I also don't believe in, unless you have a physical issue that requires you, right, to cut certain things out of your diet, I don't believe that you have to live in austerity. So it's not like I don't ever have some vegan ice cream. I live in the South now. It gets really hot. You know, some ice cream in the summer is good, but I also know that I'm going to spend at least 5 days a week like engaging in real physical activity, whether it's Pilates, whether it's this workout P-Valve that I love, whether I have friends visiting and we wander the city and walk 6 miles in a day, whether I decide to go for a run or a jog. I'm counterbalancing what I'm eating with how I'm engaging in my body physically. And research has shown that if you do 150 or more hours of exercise a day, which does not mean going to the gym. That could be walking up and down your stairs instead of taking an elevator. It could be running. It could be cycling. It could be going for a walk. That in itself is a cancer preventative behavior. And so again, if you're going to choose to have sugar more often than is probably healthy, or processed foods more often than you should, you have to at least try to counterbalance that behavior with something else.
Yes. The thing is when you eat the real food, like if you have an organic carrot, it is beyond tasty, sweet. It's just phenomenal how delicious a carrot is. If you just, if you steam it a little bit, put a little garlic powder on it that's organic, and a little bit of, I use the Earth Balance there and put a little bit. Sometimes I don't even bother with that because the carrots are just so delicious on their own. But those are the things, once you have that, and then if you have a carrot in a prepared meal that you can nuke, it's like, oh my gosh, what is this? Well, it's a carrot. It's a real carrot. And
coconut oil is a saturated fat, but it has a really high smoke point, so you can cook with it, and it's got a lot of also beneficial properties. And so if you cook those carrots with a little bit of the coconut oil instead of the Earth Balance, there's also a little bit of a sweetness from the oil, which is really nice. And people are afraid of fat, but you need fat for your brain function.
Fat. Yes.
So you need good fat. So I will say, because once I became a vegan, it does cut out a lot of sugar products because a lot of sugar products have dairy. And there's something about some vegan sweet products are great, but some to me feel way too manufactured. And so my tooth has become less sweet and more savory. So I use tons of herbs in my cooking, which really keep it interesting and lots of textures. But I also love savory things. So for me, if you offered me like a 7-layer cake, or you offered me guacamole with some really good, corn chips, I'll take the guacamole any day. So that's also interesting. The less you have of it, the less you crave it.
Right, and you acquire a taste for the good stuff, for the real.
Yes.
You acquire it, and you're really kind of surprised, and then you gravitate to it because it feels good, and it tastes good. So, well, I mean, we only have a couple minutes left, and there was something I wanted to bring up. We should probably do a show just on sharing different things, and you have a recipe. So I wanted to talk about green juice that you can make in your own home that's really makes you feel alive, and you don't have to have 40 gallons of it every day. But anyway, let's talk about your recipe. It's a quick recipe, so everyone listen up.
Oh, my apple recipe?
Yes.
Yes, it's super simple. I actually made it yesterday morning for breakfast, and I doubled it. But, again, I used the coconut oil, and I just put a couple of teaspoons in a hot skillet. And to that, I added Honeycrisp apples, which, again, that sugar is perfectly fine for you. I peeled them, I diced them up, I cored them, I threw them into the coconut oil, and then as it started to melt down, I added some cinnamon, which you can do to your taste. I added a couple of teaspoons of cinnamon. I added a small handful of crushed pecans, a small handful of raisins, and then as it was softening and sort of starting to thicken, I just added a little bit of water, so you steam it almost like that baked apple kind of a consistency, so it becomes a little bit softer. And I had half of it for breakfast yesterday morning. And the truth is, again, if you wanted something sweeter, you could take that and you could put it over like coconut non-dairy sorbet and just use it as a delicious topping. You could put it with some sort of like, again, if you can eat dairy, a savory cheese, I would do it with like an almond ricotta and put it on a crispy piece of sourdough and use it as a topping. It would be delicious. So there are lots of things you can do with it. Yeah.
Great. So thank you. And everyone, I will put that recipe on the Love by Intuition page tomorrow morning so that everyone can see that, whether they're listening or not. Okay, we have 1 minute. How can people get in touch with you? And if they're interested in a coaching session, how can they get in touch with you? And you're on Instagram as well.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, which is my primary platform, and my handle is Yonni Health and Wellness. Yonni is Y-O-N-N-I, and the word "and" is spelled out. So it's Yonni, Y-O-N-N-I, Health and Wellness is my Instagram handle. You can DM me there, or you can send me an email at contact@yonappetit.com, which is contact@Y-O-N as in Nancy, APPETIT.com.
Very good. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for being brave to talk about your journey and everything that you have experienced in regards to the eating disorders. And now you're on the other side of it, and you're helping others with the same issues, and then others that just need assistance, because there's so much information out there. It's hard to decipher what's true for you or true for someone else, and what works and what doesn't.
Yes. And I just want to say in our last minute, it doesn't, and I can work with people who've had eating disorders and with people who are plant-based, but I also work with a lot of people who aren't, whether they're recovering from surgery or they've been diagnosed with a different ailment that they need to cure, or they just want to lose weight. So it doesn't have to be, I'm not counseling people who are only in my circumstance. So don't let that be a barrier for reaching out and getting help.
Good point. I'm glad you said that. And we didn't even talk about sugar alcohol, which is one of the things that are in a lot of the keto type of, and that's not good either. But anyway.
Or the alcohol itself, exactly.
We'll probably have to have you back, just as I said with Heather. So thank you so much, Yonni. It's been special and an honor to have you. And everyone listening, share the show, listen to it again, pass on that recipe, and we've got something new that I will talk about the next time we get together that is exciting for all the hosts. And until we come together in unity consciousness, love yourself, self-care, au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week, all designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.